Hey there everybody, just doing a review for this Ampeak 1200W pure sine wave inverter. And so just taking a look at the box real quick right over here. That's the box that the inverter comes in, and that's really about it. That's all I wanted to show right there. And so what's included in the box is the pure sine wave 1200W inverter from Ampeak. You get the manual, you get this wrench, which is pretty cool. You get 4 screws, and you get the 2 inverter cables, the positive cable and the negative cable right over here. And so yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool that they included a wrench, so you can actually use this to tighten the inverter cables onto the back of the inverter right over here. So yeah, I mean, that's where it's going to come in handy. So I mean, you're still going to need a either a Phillips head or a flathead screwdriver, but this really helps because this side right over here, at least for me, I used this side right over here to hold the nut in place, and then I just screwed it in with a flathead. And so when it comes to the cables, each of them are 2.6 feet, and they are 5 wire gauge, so pretty thick. I already did test out this inverter when I did the review for the Power Queen 50 amp hour battery. You can check that out on my channel as well. And just taking a look over here at the inverter itself, pretty small, gotta say. Not too small, but it's a decent size. It does have a 10x6 by 3.5 inch form factor, and it weighs about 5 pounds. And so the use case for this would be to use it with probably a higher capacity lithium iron phosphate deep cycle battery, in my opinion. In my review for the Power Queen 50 amp hour battery, this inverter performed really well. I was trying to power a heater from this inverter, but for that 50 amp hour battery, it was only able to output 640 watts. So the output of this inverter and the battery didn't match up, so the inverter automatically turned off in that case. However, in this review, I'm going to be using this Ampeak 1200W inverter with a lead time 1280 watt hour lithium iron phosphate deep cycle battery. So hopefully in this review, I'm going to be able to push this inverter to its limit. It has a nice orange color as well. That's one thing I like. It's bright, and also a pretty major feature for this inverter is that it has a screen that's able to show, I think, the internal temperature, the wattage output, and just general stats on the screen right over here once it powers on. And just taking a look over at this side of the Ampeak inverter, it does have three prong AC outlets right over here, 1, 2, 3. It does have a off and on switch. I think this right over here is going to be used with Ampeak's I think it's a remote that you can actually plug into this. You can actually turn the inverter off and on via the remote, but that wasn't included in the box. You do have 2 type A 12-watt ports right over here. And so yeah, that's really about it. A pretty simple inverter. I just want to see how it performs. I'm also going to see if it's actually able to output pure sine wave when I do test it out. And I'm just taking a look over to this side. There's nothing on this side. And right over here, this is where you would attach the inverter cables to. There is a positive side right over here, and the negative side. You just got to make sure that you take a look at the symbols before connecting the cables, because you want the red one to connect to this one, and you want the black one to connect to this one right over here. And these are the internal fans right over here that keep the unit cool. And let me just go ahead and make sure that the inverter actually turns on when I have it connected to the lead time battery right now. You just got to switch it on. It turns on in just a few seconds. The fan kicks on for just a second as well. And it shows on the screen the input voltage right over here. One thing about the screen is that it's really bright and easy to read. Input voltage is 3.2 volts right now. It shows the internal temperature as well, which is 86 degrees Fahrenheit as of now. And it shows the output voltage as well, which is 120 volts, amps, and it shows the frequency right there. And I suppose you could say that it also shows the battery capacity, which is full right now, because I did recharge this lead time battery back to 100% using a battery charger. And so right over here it shows the output wattage, and so 6 watts right now, because I think that's how much it takes to power the inverter via the battery, with nothing being powered at all. 5 watts, 6 watts, it's not a lot of power being pulled to power this inverter. And so what I'm going to do for this test is that I'm going to power my Lasco heater right over here. Sorry about the mess over there. But yeah, I'm going to be powering this Lasco heater on its high setting, which should be pulling about 1350 watts, I believe. I know that's more than the max output for this inverter, but I'm going to see if the inverter is able to handle it. And just taking a look at the specifications inside the manual for this inverter, which I forgot to show before, it shows the AC output continuous power, which is 1200 watts. The output surge is 2400 watts. You can just take a look for yourself as well in case you're wondering about the specifications. And over on this side as well, right there. And so this is just going to be like my deep cycle battery reviews, where I run an appliance all the way until the battery is fully drained of its battery capacity. But in this case, I'm mainly measuring what this inverter is capable of to see if I'm actually able to power this heater until the lead time battery is fully depleted of its power, and that the inverter is actually able to output 1200 watts or maybe slightly above 1200 watts. But we're going to see what happens. And also, I'm going to see how many watt hours I'm able to pull from this lead time battery as well. And so yeah, let me just go ahead and get this started. So just turning it on right over here, the heater is on its high setting. And so that's going to make the inverter pull about 1350 watts, I believe. As you can see, the wattage output is going pretty high. Yeah, oh, nope, I guess not. There we go. So I suppose that answers that question. So yeah, I can confirm that you are not able to power anything over 1200 watts with this Ampeak inverter. That's fine. That's what it literally says in the specifications. The continuous power output is 1200 watts, and that's what you have to stick to. Let me see if I can find something that I have that fits into 1200 watts, and I will be right back. Alright guys, so just back with the Ampeak 1200 watt inverter. And so what I have running right now is the heater once again, but this time I do have the heater on its low setting, and that's pulling about, I think, 850 watts. And I also have my crock pot running on its high setting, and that's pulling about, I think, 200 watts or like 250 watts. And so in total, I think I have about 1100 watts coming out of the inverter, with both of these appliances being powered at the same time. And so I'm not using the watt meter anymore. I just unplugged that and put it right over there. In this case, I'm just going to run the two appliances without worrying how much capacity I'm pulling from the lead time battery. I will be doing a dedicated review for this battery right over here, but that's going to be later. But yeah, anyways, I'm just going to run both these appliances until the inverter automatically turns off, which probably means that the lead time battery is fully depleted of its capacity. And actually, we can see right over here that the battery capacity is depleting pretty quickly because this battery does have a 1280 watt hour capacity, and with this much power being used up, the battery probably has an hour of runtime at this time. But yeah, anyways, I'm just gonna come back to see how long I'm able to use the inverter for. Let me just go and set a timer. That would probably be a good idea. I have my stopwatch right over here. Let me just go ahead and start that to see how long I can have this inverter running. I mean, right now we probably can add a few minutes to the stopwatch already. Alright guys, so I have been running the crockpot and the heater for about 8 minutes with the Ampeak inverter, and I do have this multimeter plugged into one of the AC outlets while I'm having the two appliances running, and it looks like it does, and it looks like it's able to output pure sine wave right over here. And just changing it one more time, I think, and zooming out, and that does look like a pure sine wave to me right there. And so yeah, I mean, it is able to output pure sine wave in case you're curious about that. Alright guys, so we are at the 38-minute mark right now, and I did add this mini crock pot right over here. I set it to its high setting simply because I just want to expedite this test and also push this inverter to its maximum power. And so right now I'm outputting 1173 watts right here. And yeah, the Ampeak inverter is performing how it should. And so we're sticking under that 1200 watt max output, and the inverter is handling it. And I'm going to be right back to see what happens, probably until the lead time battery is fully depleted of its capacity. Okay, so I'm actually at the 49-minute mark, and I'm getting a inverter overheating message on the inverter screen. And so yeah, there's that. I think, yeah, it's powered off right now. That beeping is probably not a good thing. I'm just gonna go ahead and shut it off right now. And yeah, it seems that it does overheat You know, considering that I was practically running a 1200 watt load, well, almost a 1200 watt load continuously for almost 1 hour. I'm currently at 49 minutes. I just stopped it right now. But yeah, I mean, there we go. I mean, I would consider that to be the full test. I could wait until the inverter cools down and then, you know, continue the test. But, you know, I would consider this to be enough of a test in my opinion. Let me just go ahead and turn it back on to see what happens. I have both these shut off, and I have the heater shut off, of course. I'm not going to turn on the heater. I just want to see the internal temperature to see if it's actually able to give me a reading right now. So yeah, I mean, it's at 122 degrees Fahrenheit in for the internal temperature. I think it was at 130 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not too sure what the temperature was when it was just overheating just now. But yeah, there we go. And so long as you're powering an appliance that sticks within the 1200 watt or lower range, I think this Ampeak inverter is going to be pretty reliable. You know, I know we had that overheating situation, but I think that's because we were, like, you know, right at the cusp of the 1200 watt max continuous load. And also it depends on environmental factors such as, you know, the temperature of the room that you're powering the inverter in. But, you know, you just have to know what you want to power with this Ampeak inverter, and it's going to be pretty reliable. Of course, you know, anything that goes over 1200 watts is going to be too much for this to handle, and it will automatically shut off, just like I showed with this Lasco heater when I set it to its high setting. But yeah, that's really about it. But yeah, that is my test for the Ampeak 1200 watt pure sine wave inverter. And so I will have a link to the product page for this Ampeak inverter down in the description below, and I will also have a link to the review article over at chargerharbor.com in case you want to read a review for it. And I will see you all in the next video. All right, goodbye.